Number 6 of Lifestyle Solutions. I'm Monica Steiner.
I'm Dr. Greg Steiner.
And you know what? Let's get straight into our topics for this week. And nutritionally, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is eating for maximum benefit, depending on a sport that you might be into, or even for, whatever your purpose is. Because depending on what sport you do or what your activity level is, you can actually maximize your food consumption. Isn't that true?
If you have your focus, you're on target. If you eat and focus everything towards that, much more likely to get success in much less time.
So it's very different, for example, if, let's say, you practice football or soccer or are a gymnast or a swimmer, where you are practicing potentially 2 to 4 hours a day, maybe 4 or even 5 times a week.
That's a lot.
It is, versus, let's say, a golfer, a weightlifter who may be working out every day, but maybe about an hour, hour and a half. So what are some of the differentiations here, if you don't mind going into that? And I'd like to.
First one really is energy systems. Of course, if you're running, then that's even different. I, for example, am much more of a sprint type. To me, it almost seems amazing someone can run like a whole lap without taking a break. Like 100 and 200 meters, I'll time myself running upstairs. Monica has a very good pace. She could swim forever and ever. If she does run, she could just go. And when we were doing CrossFit, we do these 4-round events. She'd be better the third or fourth, very, very, very steady, where a lot of people are up and then down the other way around. But part of it is just natural. We have different energy systems. Some of it's what we're born with, but some of it's what we actually need. Mm-hmm. For example, carbohydrate is a big one. I'll touch on a few times today with the different energy systems. But of course, the more distance you run, the longer the exertion. That's a proper use for carbohydrates. But a lot of the common mistakes, if someone is a short spurt type of person, take a lot of carbs. Next thing you know, they've gained a lot of fat and don't even know why. But it lies in the diet.
Well, I think there are a lot of general misconceptions about this. Mm-hmm. And one of the main ones is many think the less I eat and the less calories I consume, the more fat I will burn and the more weight I will lose. Let me tell you, that's totally false. And if that's what you are doing, you're always going to be hungry, you're always going to be grumpy, and you're always going to retain fat instead of losing it. Why is that? Well, partly because your body thinks that you're starving it. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go into survival mode, and it's going to hold on to all the food, all the fat stores, everything that it has, and your metabolism practically shuts down and goes very, very, very slowly. So that's not the way to eat. Am I correct?
Your body thinks you're killing it. Now, after you try to go without food for a little while, you might agree. You think you're killing yourself, but you're not. But what Monica's getting at is this, that we're designed literally to survive in really harsh circumstances. For example, my metabolism is a lot of Irish back in there, make the joke that we survived the potato famine. With carbs, if 3 of my 4 in my immediate family, if we look at a carb, we gain a pound. If we touch it, we gain 2. If we eat it, we gain 10, even if the carb is this big. And everybody that's carb intolerant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My father, very different genetic construction. He could eat moderately, have carbs, and he would just stay lean. That's just the way it was. Where are we at here? We're
just
talking
because
back on track.
Yeah, no, but one of the things, on the other hand, if you eat a huge meal, let's say you say, hey, I just like to eat. That's how before doing what it is that I'm doing now, I would go at noon, have this huge all-you-can-eat buffet where you have stuffed yourself, and then you're not hungry for the rest of the day. But what are you doing there? You're overloading your body. Your metabolism has to work double, triple times, so that's not good either. It's kind
of like to assimilate what you need for muscle growth. Mm-hmm. You only have enough enzymes and some other things, enough chemicals at a certain time to use usefully what you eat. Guess where the rest of it goes? So it becomes just, if you can't use it to grow at that point or repair, that everything that's left over basically goes into fat storage, one way or the other.
Now, so what should you do? Really, what you need to do is eat 5 times a day. Small portion meals, even a regular breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, let's say, 2 snacks in between, but more like a meal-type snack, Why is that? Because your body then can process it a lot smoother with using the nutrients and the energy and being able to do that continuously over a long period of time. Now what happens with that? Your metabolism starts to really, really ramp up and work more. It doesn't overload itself at all, but it is consistent, and what it does is it speeds up. So it will make you even a bit more hungry, but you're going to use that food that much more. It's sort of, think of it as, you know, vitamin C or something that's time released, because basically you're time releasing the food into your system and it's being able to metabolize
Another way
better.
to look at it, your body gets the impression, hey, we're not starving. More food's coming. You kind of learn that. I mean, some of it's automatic and there's different processes, but just to think about it, that's a good way to look at it. You tell your body that, nope, more food is coming anytime you want it. In fact, 2-3 hours down the line, it's time to eat again. So your body doesn't enter that, what I would call kind of an alarm reaction. And so it's less likely to put a lot of things into fat storage.
Now here's a little something, for athletes, whether they are young or old, who do very long workouts. I'm talking about those 2 to 4 hour type of workouts, whether you're 10 years old, 15 years old, or 30 or 40 years old. You need energy food. That is so important. And what exactly is energy food? Well, those are your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. All of them, but you need the right kind. So protein actually does provide energy. A lot of people think it's only carbs that provide energy, but that's not the case at all. You do have to train your body. When it comes to the carbs, it's that rice, it's the sweet potato, it's the red potatoes. When it comes to the fats, it's the avocados, certain nuts, essential oils as well. Help me out with a little bit more about that, specifically on why you may need certain foods.
There's a couple things, and this gets into a lot what you want to do. Do you want to grow muscle or do you want to burn fat? Most people say both, but you can't always do it simultaneously. One of the best explanations I ever heard was carbohydrates are like firecracker food. Now, a long time ago, I mean, some of you, if you're probably with our program, you're that long time ago group where we belong too. But what I'm getting at is they would say you have 6 carbohydrate-rich meals all day long. But what that really does, like, stuff you with firecracker energy. Firecracker, you put it in, it's digested, energy spikes up, then it drops back down. Puts a huge stress on your pancreas for one, but it's better to have kind of a slow burn. You're burning fat, maybe a little bit of protein, steady, 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 so your energy stays steady. But if you're an athlete and you're going to work out really hard, do your cardio, long hikes, long walks, anything that takes endurance, that's a good, correct, proper use of carbohydrate. You'll use it up right then and there, and it's not likely to go to fat. But if you just eat a bunch of carbs and don't do anything else, you can get that proportion backward and get really frustrated when you're trying to trim your waistline.
Another thing that's quite important is the timing of when it is that you're going to eat a lot of these foods. So, I would definitely say, especially if you're an athlete, eat your carbs at least an hour before it is that you're going to start that high impact workout. And then again, if you're not trying to lose weight, you want to have some of those carbs, but also the protein, which is a great energy and snack during your workout, and especially within 20 minutes of having finished whatever it is you're doing. And that's really to, recoup and restore and be able to use, if you've been doing weights, is to be able to gain what it is that you need to do. If you have been exerting a lot of energy, once again, it's putting back into the system.
I'd interject something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Monica's discipline of bodybuilding, and boy, it is a discipline. They have the timing and the composition of food down better than everybody. Literally, I don't know how people did bodybuilding before the invention of Tupperware. I have no idea. But somehow, I guess they carried the cow back along because it make them strong anyway at the same time. But what I'm getting at, if you want to grow muscle, there's a certain way of eating and a certain timing. It's similar as far as the timing, but you have your carbs and your proteins and your fats in a different order. And then you factor that in with your cardio. If you want to lose the fat, you have to eat in such a way, you're not really trying to grow so much, but preserve as much muscle as you possibly can, but burn as much fat as possible. So it's not the same thing, but bodybuilders must have credit because they have that down to an art form better than any other discipline.
Well, that's a good point. So the more you're actually expending, the more you need to consume of the right stuff. Now, if you're trying to lose the weight, and not doing an excessive exercise other than maybe 3 times a week for 45 minutes plus some cardio at that time, you don't need as much food. However, you still need to space and portion that food intake so that your body can process it, so it can metabolize smoothly and efficiently. So, eat your fats and your carbs earlier in the day, before your workout, and then so that it can fuel the workout that it is that you're doing and be all used up. And so what you're putting in your body afterwards are those proteins that your body's going to use specifically to help burn the fat and store the muscle, as opposed to adding any more fat to you.
Is this a good time to talk about losing fat throughout the lifespan?
Go for it, yes.
Sounds
Why
like
not?
a good plan. Yeah, as I tell people, quite honestly, I was the fat kid that got picked on by everybody because I have those carbohydrate intolerant genes, and I love the stupid things. But I did lean out in my 20s at one point, had a bad way of doing it, which meant I would eat. My diet wasn't that good, but I just exercise it off like many people do. And at that age, and then with a whole lot of exercise, I could keep pretty trim.
Starving college student back then?
Just after college.
After
just
college,
after a little
okay.
bit. But having said, what I found, if I ever got hurt or sick, weight would come right back on. Very frustrating. Then at a point in my 30s, I really wanted to test, 37, I wanted to test myself for living over in Europe to see just how lean and how fit I could really get. There I had a different thing. I mean, my diet wasn't bad. The timing, I would eat several eggs in the morning time, a bunch of cottage cheese, was going through tubs of diet yogurt for some reason. That became my sweet, but no caffeine, no other sweets. Then I'd have either salad or meat at nighttime. So I was just eating twice a day, maybe 3. I did get really, really trim. I did do that, but I lost all my size. I thought I was just great because I was all ripped this way. All I got from my spouse, "You're bony, you hurt, I don't want to hug you anymore." Oh, geez, so there was the trade-off of those things. But I thought it was cool because I'd never been that lean. Then another time, before we started when we started competing in bodybuilding, when I did, Monica started a couple years before I did, I tried that same approach. It didn't work. Of course, now 15 years had passed or something like that. Yeah, this is where I'm going with that exactly. It's moving goalposts. What you worked one time doesn't work. So boy, I had to focus again and again and again to get it right. Finally then, I started making some more successes, getting really scared, because there's nothing to motivate a person like knowing you're going to get up in 9 weeks or 8 weeks in front of a critical audience wearing a little bitty Speedo and a spray tan. You will find a way to get your cardio and exercise in. Then, contrary to anything I did, I started eating several times a day, which is largely chicken and sweet potato and a few other things. Just dig, very measured portions. I thought it would make me fat. That was just part of the psychology I was carrying. And actually, it preserved virtually all the muscle mass I had at the time, and I ended up, a couple of body fat less than I'd ever been. And that's a body in the 50s now. 30s you can get away with more, 20s you can get away with more. So you have to focus that as the body ages.
That's one thing people don't realize. It's okay to eat, and it's okay to eat, a lot, as long as you do watch those portions and you do watch the spacing. Okay, I want to totally change now, and I want to change the subject, and I want to go from nutrition, still talking a little bit about nutrition, but I want to shift over to injuries. And I want to, I know, but this is your specialty here, and I want to talk about eating specifically for anti-inflammation and repair, because I know that there are certain foods to avoid that can actually cause inflammation, and there are others that you want to eat just to help to prevent any, and if you have damage already, what it is that you can do. So first off, what are some of those inflammation foods, the ones that we need to avoid, and why?
There's a couple things. Inflammation is actually how we repair. So inflammation in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's when it's chronically inflamed, day after day, you can't fix it when something is constantly being inflamed and doesn't repair. Weightlifters know all about that, especially with tendon. Well, usually it's tendons. Sometimes it's more than that too. But diet can be huge in this. Here's one I have to refer to some quick notes on too, but I'll run through this list briefly. If you have feedback, want to hear more about this at a future time, we can go do way more on inflammation, because that can make or break your training, especially as you get older. Because as we get older, our fire extinguishers, we have half the firemen we had, and half of them are sleeping, and their fire extinguishers are only half full. That's why older people hurt 10 times as much as younger people. But diet can be huge. Very first one, good old sugar. good old-fashioned sugar. If you cut that out, then right there, you're doing yourself a huge favor. Because what the immune system then, sugar actually after a while, it alarms the body, but it depresses it. You have some sugar, 30 minutes later, you're going to have you'll have less resistance to even getting a cold. So you're compromising your immune system that way. Certain kinds of vegetable oil, mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, crackers, bread, kind of thing, and chips. Omega-6 oils are good, but there's a certain kind of omega-6 that create inflammation. So omega oils are good, but it's not quite as simple as having a lot of omega oils. But if you've got the balance wrong, you can create inflammation. So the kind of stuff that basically makes cheap junk food, those will actually increase your inflammation. Pardon me. Fried food, same kind of thing. It goes slightly different thing without getting all the technicalities about it. But fried food uses a slightly different chemical process to increase inflammation. Refined flour, that'll do that too. And that can spike insulin levels. And if insulin levels, insulin, everybody knows about it because of diabetics. It's got to process your sugar. But insulin is basically a fat storage hormone. That's really what it actually takes blood sugar out and transports it into the cell and so forth. But if there's too much, insulin spikes, that will give an inflammation response as well. Many people, it's dairy. That's been in the natural health community forever. They've been talking about that one. In my clinical practice, I find some people are highly dairy intolerant. Some seem to do okay. But others, they don't think they're intolerant of dairy, but they hurt all the time. So it's kind of hidden. They don't put the two and two together that way. Artificial sweeteners. Those kind of excite nerves to a degree. They also can screw up the way you metabolize blood sugar anyway, but that can also influence inflammation. Other artificial additives, that's been known for quite a long time. Saturated fats.
Such as which ones, for example?
Which?
Well, I mean, exactly. The saturated fats, I mean, we think about, we have that name, but sometimes, we want the example. So when you're talking about the burgers, the pizza, the candy, the chips, those would be some of those. You have saturated fats.
That's what it says things. Right there. Burger, pizza, candy, chips.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good thing then. So that's fantastic.
Those things. Some people, there's some controversy about this one too. Just beef, chicken, and pork, depending on how it's fed. That's kind of cutting edge. There's research this way and that, but it does seem to be a truism, and I see this. I'll tell the story this way. For a lot of international patients here, they'll eat the same thing, same food, same beef, chicken, pork here. They go back to their native country, whatever that is, where they don't feed them. They just run around, the cattle eat grass like they're supposed to. The chickens, whatever people throw them the way they're supposed to, they hurt less. They come back there, they lose 5 to 10 pounds in that 3 weeks they're over, and after 10 days, half the joint pains go away. They come back here, don't change the diet, it all comes back. That brings us into the toxins. They're called endocrine disruptors too. Things leak out of phthalates. They leak out of plastic. It's another kind of them. There's a variety of these things, and they screw up estrogen and testosterone. They mess up your hormone balance. Another cause, by the way, gentlemen, of having really low testosterone too. So there's some of it. This is a big area that we could go into that more.
Well, what are those, we talked about those to avoid, but what about those that combat inflammation? What are some of the great foods that we should be having on a daily basis? And I know one of the things that I use every single morning, I walk in, whether it's to the gym or anywhere else, after my big shaker of water comes a big shaker with green tea in it. And green tea to me is something that I feel, not only is an anti-inflam, but if you don't want to have colds or flus in the winter, have your green tea every single day, and I can promise you that'll take care of a lot of that.
Very good immune system booster, yeah.
What else?
Berries, blueberries, raw oats, not the refined kind. Raw oats actually work to moderate estrogen, testosterone. They work with that too to keep the hormones normal. Ginger, which is another good anti-inflammatory spice, can help with joint pain. Green tea, number 4 on the list. Get a few more of these too. Dark chocolate, don't need a ton of it. Funny thing is, I know a lot of people will eat chocolate until they puke practically, but not dark chocolate. Just no one that I know of eats that much dark chocolate.
Well, depending on how dark it is, I mean, that's an acquired taste as well.
It is. You have to almost discipline yourself to like it.
Exactly.
Salmon, the omegas in that. Red peppers. Turmeric, which is maybe the best spice on the planet. Chronic joint pain, protects against colon cancer. Some studies talk about possibly for Alzheimer's. Beets. Good old broccoli, that's way up there too. Broccoli, cauliflower, black beans. Controversy about tomatoes. I seem to tolerate them very well. Some people with arthritis not, but it's definitely worth a look at them. Okay. Extra virgin olive oil. It's a couple more.
Now,
garlic, eggs, spinach, chia seeds, tuna fish, white tuna, apples, yogurt, but you don't need all that stuff with the NutraSweet and everything else in it. Most nuts as well. And I'm hoping you make a connection, because a lot of that is really just emphasizing a whole lot of what's on the Lifestyle Solutions diet plan in the first place.
And I'll talk about that in just a minute, but okay, let's talk just for a second about prevention, about avoiding damage to begin with. So these are the things, a lot of the things that you can do and have. Any other advice when it comes to just prevention in general?
From the nutritional side?
Yeah.
A lot of it, if you just do right here, if you're not inflamed in the first place because you've avoided all that stuff, well, it's good. And then if you have a lot of the natural anti-inflammatories in the second place, that means when bad luck happens, you have an injury or whatever. I'm kind of nursing a shoulder from running up steps with a weight vest and stumbled a little bit and slammed my shoulder. But it's actually healing remarkably fast. Thank God for that too, because I thought, oh boy, here we go again. Demoralizing to have injuries as you age. But if your hormones are good, you're going to repair. If you don't have very much inflammation, you won't hurt as much. And then if you've got a lot of your own anti-inflammatories, like you have a working fire department, so when the bad stuff does happen, you still heal as though you're 20 years younger than what you were.
How does stress add to the equation here?
Good old stress, that's huge. It's huge. Two main things really talk about. Cortisol, that's one of the main hormones that it's cortisone comes from it. You run out and see a grizzly bear. Oh my God, there's a grizzly bear. Or you get a bad email. I was just talking to a patient earlier today. Some stuff they've got to deal with. Funny, the threat's real. Grizzly bear, boss wants to fire him. Either way, it's a big stressor. But cortisol spikes up. A little of it acts as an anti-inflammatory, prepares for fight or flight and all that, but it's day after day after day after day. It'll put fat in the midsection and actually weaken your connective tissue and lower your immune response. Next one, if stress, you can't sleep very well, growth hormone. Growth hormone makes children grow.
Yeah.
The bodybuilding community, if they take it to a really big level, they'll add 20 pounds of muscle. And from what I read, it's Sylvester Stallone's, one of his apparently, I think he has a prescription for that, one of his fountain of youth.
I've got to give a quick shout out to Steve over here, who even says, "Not me. I love dark chocolate." I don't. He loves dark chocolate. I'm here or there, but
a friend likes dark chocolate. Someone we know likes dark chocolate.
Great. So go ahead. Sorry.
Growth hormone. We put it out when we sleep. A little of it, of course, children grow. It will help keep you lean. It does that. Part of it is it does lean a person to promote muscle growth. But a little of it repairs organs. But if you get stressed out, can't sleep, your brain waves don't enter the right cycle, so you don't really release any growth hormone, and so you don't repair. And so week after week, month after month, year after year, even internally, you just kind of, these little micro injuries accumulate, toxins don't get detoxed. Basically, it speeds up the aging process in a negative way. So stress, a little stress is motivating, but it's stress without resolution. That's the problem. That's the one that gets people.
And a lot of what we've covered today is really all in our 1 year complete program that's called Lifestyle Solutions. It balances nutrition, training, as well as mindset, and it takes into account your very personal goals, your individual starting point, regardless of where that is. You might have never set foot in a gym, or you might be one of those 5 times a week gym rats.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a monthly plan, it's a yearly plan. It's a commitment for a year, because there are 3 phases to it. The first phase is that learning phase. It's, I care enough to learn. And it starts off with a month of cleansing, then applying, then restoring. that second phase, which are the 3 months that follow that, it's all about maintenance. It's, I can do this, and you're continuing to learn and you're starting to tweak. And then that third phase is the I am, and that's where now you become the lifestyle, and at the end of 12 months you will have all the tools you need to eat right for you, to train right for you, and basically to have a Lifestyle Solutions family to help encourage and keep you accountable. So, you know, if any of you are interested, definitely message me for details. We've got a wonderful, small, and yet growing community of those who are doing absolutely fantastic in this. But next week, I also want to tease that next time that we come and do this, we're going to talk specifically about cartilage.
Ooh, we need it. I know everything about damaged cartilage.
Okay.
Also a little about how to repair it too and preserve it.
So that'll be really good to go into all of that.
Yeah. Then this group I want to just mention too, Aging Evolution. Look them up. Aging Evolution. I was wearing the shirt last time now. That's an outstanding group of just really, really, I hope to look at them as inspiring people who are past certain birthdays. You should see them. The men and the women both, just tremendous, super motivated, work out, live the life, take their Tupperware all the time too, because they have that kind of discipline. When you see the physiques and the energy level, it's good to be inspired by others.
Well, what Aging Evolution really is, it's a movement. And if you go onto their website, agingevolution.com, if you look at the Instagram, Aging Evolution, or if you look at the Facebook page, Aging Evolution, you're going to see some incredible, inspiring stories. Fit over 40, fit over 50, 60 some odd year olds, 70 some odd year olds, and you know we're not talking just bodybuilders at all.
Yes.
This is across the community, all sorts of people who basically believe that, you know, it is never too late to be great. So I really, really encourage you to go take a look over there. And while we're at it, and we've got just a couple of minutes left to go, little contest update here. I leave in 2 weeks' time to compete in Italy. Many of you know about that. I'm very, very excited and very proud to be representing Team USA for the INBA PNBA, which is the International Natural Bodybuilding Association and Professional Natural Bodybuilding Association. I will tune in, if possible, to the next edition of Lifestyle Solutions, in which Dr. Greg will have a very, very special surprise guest with him. But so I'll try to tune in. I'll try to send some videos or so as well. Now, as you can probably tell, I am leaning out right now. I'm not hungry. I'm training twice a day cardio, once a day weights, and still fitting in some posing training. I'm eating at least 6 times a day. And now is when the hobby is sort of becoming almost like a full-time job, but that's only going to be for the next couple of weeks until it's time to go. And I'm very excited, and I will continue giving you guys updates. So, how I want it to end, there's an amazing quote by my trainer, Joe Fantauzzi, who's with Team Fit Fantauzzi, and he posted this on Instagram, so I've got to give him credit for this. And he said it takes 4 weeks for you to see your body changing. It takes 8 weeks for your friends and family. And it takes 12 weeks for the rest of the world. So keep on going. And with that, I think we're going to end. Be fit, look fab, live large, at any age, from anywhere.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us. See ya.